YouTube, and welcome back to True Power Comics, where today we bring you something you can really sink your teeth into. DC vs. Vampires, a horror-filled fright fest that's a lot of fun. Now, please take a moment and press that subscribe button, as it only takes you a second, but it really helps me. And it helps YouTube to figure out who really likes my content. Thank you. The story begins with John Constantine, getting drunk at an empty bar. He's complaining about the small drinks and calling the bartender a cheap bastard, when a voice is heard from behind. "Making friends, John?" says the voice, who is revealed to be Zatanna, another powerful magician. He asks what brings a fine magician like herself into a place as terrible as this, and she replies saying she was looking for a piece of crap. "Well, you found him," says John, as he invites her to pull up a seat. An invitation she declines, saying that she was hoping to go somewhere more private to talk, which John is confused by because they're in an empty bar. What could be more private? But she keeps pushing until he agrees to go with her, and as they go back to talk, we see a bloodlust forming in Zatanna's eyes. John begins searching for a drink for her, unsure if there is anything to drink, but she assures him that she'll find something. But before she can pounce on him and try consuming his blood, he binds her up with a spell, saying, "If you're done with the whole eating me thing, we could have a chat." Zatanna is understandably shocked. How was he able to tell anything was wrong with her? And also, she's wondering what's going to happen next. But John's just looking for some credit on figuring out she was a vampire. And after knowing her for so long, he just wants to chat and catch up with an old friend. Zatanna, still shocked, wonders why he isn't going to kill her, but he just says, "You're already dead. Besides, I got a real lack of people who will listen to me talk." "So, what's it like being dead?" asks John, with Zatanna quickly replying, "It's wonderful." And as John thinks it over, he can only manage to say, "I bet." The scene switches and now we're in the Batcave. The Batman seems to already know something is amiss in Gotham. He's collecting blood to most likely try and fix the impending vampire plague. Hospitals, blood banks, donor drives, I need as much as but he's cut off by a noise he heard in the background. Alfred, sensing something's off by the random pause in Batman's speech, asks if everything is okay. And Batman, thinking quickly, replies with a coded phrase to alert Alfred of the trouble. "Yes, I just remembered it might rain," Batman says back, and Alfred quickly understands what to do. The lights go out, leaving the Batcave completely dark, but through the darkness a Green Arrow pierces into Batman from behind. Green Arrow comes running out, expressing his disinterest with wanting to go toe-to-toe with Batman, making sure to remind him that it's not because he couldn't beat him, but because this isn't how he planned for things to go down. Green Arrow creeps up to the spot where Batman's body should be laying, but instead, it's a costume stand with Robin's costume attached. "Oh, this is bad," Green Arrow says as Batman silently sneaks up behind him with a knife in hand. But elsewhere, Batwoman is breaking into a hotel looking for some sort of evidence. She enters through a window and grabs some dirt from under the bed. All of a sudden, she looks behind her to see that Nightwing is watching her, a flirtatious smile stricken across his face. "If I didn't know any better, I'd say you were following me," he says with a smile. "What are you doing here?" He explains that he was curious when he saw her breaking into an old hotel, and asks her the same question. So, she shows him the ancestral dirt she found under the bed, and explains that when a vampire leaves home, it must sleep above its ancestral dirt wherever it goes. "So, we broke into a tourist vampire's hotel room?" Nightwing asks sarcastically. But Barbara, ignoring the sarcasm, excitedly tells him about the vampire's identity, Mary Shackton, the mother of Mary Sword, aka the Queen of Blood. A confused Nightwing asks, "So a 600-year-old vampire got divorced and came to Gotham on vacation?" But Barbara is unconvinced. She thinks something more sinister is going on in secret, and that's exactly what they're going to find out. The battle continues within the Batcave, with Bruce getting the upper hand. "You come for me in my own home," he says as he punches Green Arrow straight in the jaw. "That's where you were," he begins saying, but is interrupted by Green Arrow returning the hit. Batman tells Green Arrow that it's over and it's time for him to give up the fight, but Oliver is so angry he yells with rage about how they all put their trust in Bruce, but is quickly tackled to the ground by Batman, who's ready to make the final blow. He tells Green Arrow that he thought he would be stronger by now, making Oliver confused and more angry. But Batman, just as confused, starts asking about why there was water in the arrows he was shooting. And both heroes revealed that neither of them are vampires, stopping them from finishing the other. The conversation between Zatanna and John is going well, with John telling one of his old stories and them sharing a laugh. With no care from John that he's talking to a vampire, he's just happy to talk to someone. But, all of a sudden, John senses something. He senses a force of immense light coming through to the mortal plane. Zatanna asks what's wrong, but John just tells her that they're about to find out. From out of a portal of blinding yellow light emerges Dr. Fate, a sorcerer infused with the power of Nabu, a god of fate. John Constantine, you are needed, he proclaims, but Zatanna is having none of it. She knows his presence means no good for her, so she lunges at Fate, attempting to end things before they even start. John Constantine, unwilling to let Zatanna act like a monster, uses a spell to stop her once again, but before Zatanna can explain to John that Dr. Fate is hunting her kind, Fate uses his magic to set her ablaze, burning her to a crisp. Yes, he doesn't like vampires. John gets in Fate's face, yelling and pissed off, asking if killing her was even necessary, but Fate tries reminding him that she was a vampire. John isn't thick though. That was his friend, regardless, and now she's gone. Dr. Fate says to John that the vampires are getting ready for a war, but John tells him the only war here is the war Fate brought himself. Dr. Fate won't let up though. He states that the end of the world is at stake, but honestly, when isn't it? "How's your cheek?" asked Batman, and Green Arrow replied, "It's fine. You don't hit as hard as you think you do." He asked Batman why he never has people over if he has such cool stuff, but Batman doesn't trust people. Oliver asks if he should be offended, but Batman reminds him that he is the one who just came here to kill him. Green Arrow and Batman go on talking about the vampires a little more, with Batman questioning how he even found out about the vampires, and Green Arrow telling a story about how he captured the Clock King, who was a vampire and tried to eat him. But Batman is confused and tells him that they don't eat people. Batman snatches a model replica of the Batmobile from Oliver's hand as he explains more about the interrogating of the suspected vampire and getting little to no information. What he could get out of him was that something deeper was going on, so he started following and tracking villains and disappearances that all led him to one place: Gotham. "It all led to one hero being turned," Green Arrow said, "and you only go out at night, you dress like a bat, and you live in a cave." But Batman smiled and said, "You know I don't live here, right?" But Green Arrow still thought he was making a pretty good point. "So you came here to murder me on a hunch?" Batman asked, but Green Arrow pointed out that he had other sources as well, ones he wasn't willing to give up the name of. Batman told Green Arrow that his suspicions were correct, but he had the wrong hero. The hero he was actually looking for was Hal Jordan, aka Green Lantern, and that he had killed Barry Allen, otherwise known as the Flash. Batman also apologized because he knew that Oliver and Hal had a long history together and that he considered Hal a close friend. But Oliver was distraught. He didn't think Green Lantern could do such a thing. He asked if Batman was sure, but immediately checked himself and apologized, saying, "I know you wouldn't say it if you weren't." Later we see a vampire surrendering and begging for mercy. We also hear the dialogue between two heroes, Red Hood and Batwoman. They're talking about how powerful Green Lantern is, but they're still not convinced that he's the head vampire. Vampires have a rigid hierarchy that they always follow. Batwoman tells Red Hood, but Red Hood just thinks they're all pawns. He finishes off the begging vampire and Batwoman asks if he found anything. But before Red Hood can answer, Gorilla Grodd from out of nowhere smashes Batwoman so hard that she's sent flying like a rag doll. Grodd is screaming about how the humans may be hunting them now, but the vampires have bigger plans for them. But Red Hood just keeps on fighting. Gorilla Grodd continues on about how the time of the humans is at an end. He grabs Red Hood, holding him over the edge, but Red Hood still talks to Batwoman over the radio saying, "One day we'll have to fight Hal and Oliver, but they're just pawns in this war, and you don't win a war by taking down pawns." As Gorilla Grodd dangles Red Hood over the edge, he cracks a joke about how if his master had turned Red Hood before he threw him off, then he could have flown away. But Red Hood says he'd rather fall than be a vampire. And just then Batwoman strikes Grodd in the back, knocking Red Hood from his grip, and Gorilla Grodd, in pain from the attack, screams a loud thundering roar and transforms into a blat, flying off into the night. "Well, that sucked," says Red Hood, dangling off the side of the building. "But you and I might be the only people to ever see a gorilla jump out of a skyscraper window, or turn into a bat." But Batwoman focuses on the mission at hand. Helping him back up, she asks him again if he found any evidence, and Red Hood, holding up a Joker playing card, replies with a proud yes. Back at the Batcave, Oliver and Bruce are still talking about this impending vampire war. Green Arrow, knowing how powerful Hal Jordan is still unsure that he could only be a pawn in this whole war. And if he is only a pawn, then how powerful is the king? The two heroes are going through suspects, with Batman pulling vampires he's already killed off the list. He asks Oliver if the time comes to kill someone he cares about, would he be able to? But Oliver is willing to keep that question a hypothetical for as long as he can. Just then the alarm in the Batcave goes off and the heroes gear up for another fight. Oliver boasts that if he didn't set off the alarm when he came in, then whoever's coming in isn't better than him. But Batman, the genius, replies with, "Or they don't care if we know they're coming," striking a bit of fear into Green Arrow. Diana, aka Wonder Woman, walks in, telling him that they need to talk. Green Arrow immediately puts his guard down, wanting to tell her about the horrible things going on, but Batman, the untrusting type, asks why she even came there in the first place. But Wonder Woman tries to flip the blame of Barry's death onto Oliver, saying that she knows he's sick and it's not his fault. But Oliver, having a moment of confusion, tries clarifying that it was Hal who killed Barry, and Batman, getting tired of the game, tries to make Oliver realize what's happening here. Batman says she knows, and then starts chucking wooden stakes at Wonder Woman, hoping to pierce her heart. But of course, Hal Jordan is there hiding in the back, and he uses his lantern ring to grab the wooden stakes, saying, "You dropped this, Bruce." Wonder Woman, still trying to convince Oliver, continues telling him that he's got an infection in his blood and that they can help him. But Batman's still attacking, and Oliver is actually feeling the weight of Batman's previous questions as he struggles to shoot at a turned Wonder Woman. He continues asking Batman if he's sure that Wonder Woman is actually a vampire, showing just how much she actually got into his head. But just then another alarm goes off. "What's the alarm?" Oliver asks, and Batman, with a serious look, replies, "Bad things." Just then the entire Justice League now enters the Batcave, and Batman asks if they're here for him or the vampires. But when Superman starts talking about getting them both help, Batman just says Ollie's name and it's time to go. The entire Justice League start facing off in a tremendous battle, with Batman and Green Arrow against everyone else. Two heroes with no power trying to triumph against their own fallen friends. What will happen next? Find out in our part 2 coming soon. And thank you for joining us at True Power Comics for our storytelling. Have a great day, and until next time.